like such a tasty morsel. I'm craving it right now. I only said that I love you to get to your baby. Hey, baby. I want to eat your baby.
You're listening to Grace, Geltman, and Weld on the Hammer Factor. Take it away, boys.
I want to talk about the reconciliation, the Build Back Better Act.
Yeah, I think there's some good things to talk about there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go, Brandon.
What's that?
Let's go, Brandon.
Brandon?
Grace gets it.
Are you not aware of this, Lewis?
Huh?
Never mind.
I'm not.
Welcome to episode 85.
Damn
Let's
it.
go, Brandon. Oh, no, just kidding. That's horrible. My name is John Grace, producer here in the show. I'd like to introduce my co-host, John Weld, co-owner of Immersion Research, and Lewis Geltman, policy director for the Outdoor Alliance. We have a very exciting show lined up today. We have, going with our movie theme, we have another great movie to talk about. Godspeed, Los Polacos, which is going to be super interesting. We have the director and one of the main characters of the film on the show today. And we got a little listener mail. We got some good stuff about Build Back Better from Lewis coming in. Yeah, how's it going, guys?
I'm a little starstruck, I have to admit. I'm gonna be a little nervous for this.
Yeah, this is...
Yeah. I have to say this is like possibly I don't think I've ever enjoyed a movie as much as I enjoyed this movie. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah. It was everything that's right about an adventure movie.
Yeah, for sure.
You couldn't script it. I mean, you could not write a better like piece of fiction.
Yeah.
Just like all of it. Like the characters are like so likable and like the things they're doing are just so wild, and it's just like it just couldn't be better.
I'll tell you, it just makes you realize, and we'll talk about this more, how easy it is to go on an expedition now. You know what I mean? Like you complain about, oh my God, we had to get a visa, or like had to deal with these logistics when we got on the ground. We were delayed for 5 days. I mean,
The helicopter was late dropping off my resupply of dry tops.
I mean, I don't want to give away too much, and I don't want to talk about the movie too early, but I mean, it took them 2.5 years to get out of the country. So, anyway, we'll get into all that here in a little bit. What a story! What a story! And I just want to preemptively apologize. I'm gonna butcher some Polish names in this show, so just bear with me there. I've already talked to the people whose names I'm gonna butcher, so they're well aware of it. So, well, what's going on? What are you up to?
Dude. Whew. A lot of stuff going on. We're building a retail store here in Hood River. It's kind of exciting.
It sounds
Big
like
project.
quite the undertaking.
It is. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just, I don't know. We're used to doing stuff in conflicts, which is a little more laid back, But now we have like building permits and regulations and
It's
stuff
good
like
you
that.
got that intermediate step of white salmon from Confluence
Right.
on your way to the big city of Hood River.
We hired Nicole Mansfield
That's exciting. What's she going to be
from
doing?
Hammer Factor fame. You may know her from Hammer Factor.
Yep, some episodes
Made
back.
from the Gap outlet.
What's she going to be doing with you guys?
She's product management, design. I mean, she's obviously a phenomenal woman boater. So having her work on our women's gear and really help us improve that segment is going to be awesome. I don't want to make this an IR ad, obviously, but it is exciting for sure. I mean, our office is kind of a sausage fest, so it's great to finally break that up a bit,
Oh, that's great. I can't. You're gonna have to send me some pictures of the space that you're putting in. Did you say it was like 4,000 square feet?
Yeah, it's a big one.
Formerly the Moth Lounge, formerly the Pint Shack. Now
Formerly
IR.
a theater. Formerly before that, it was I learned today it was a garage, like a Ford dealership in the 60s.
I can see that.
Which I can see it too. Now that it's revealed.
It could be haunted. Places like
Could
that
be.
are sometimes haunted. So can we just
Anyhow.
talk about the price of everything for just 1 second?
Yeah.
I mean, Green Race been doing this I've been doing it for 16 years, organizing. So you have pretty clear idea of all the numbers you got to call, the people you got to bring in. You know, it's you check the list. You know, you go through the list and do the things. Porta potties this year, over $2,000 in porta potties for the event. Just 3 years ago, that was less than $1,000.
That's surprising. I would have guessed like demand for that would be down with the pandemic.
It's not demand, it's the labor. It's just the people to do all this stuff.
Yeah,
I'm guessing, right?
I think a lot of it is demand because a lot of people are building new houses and things like that. Every job site's got to have a porta potty. But I don't know. I'm just blown away. I mean, are you seeing this, Weld?
Are you kidding? Yeah, a container. I mean, this is just one aspect of it. But a container of spray skirts used to be $3,000. It's now $12,000 for container skirts. So, and that's just one aspect of it. And the other thing is,
And to be clear, you're talking about the container, not the skirts,
yeah,
right?
the shipping cost. So just the shipping cost. Yeah. And you know, another thing we're all going to see, because we're seeing it. I know everyone I talk to is seeing the same thing. I mean, when you make a product, like any product, but let's just talk outdoor gear. You know, you from year to year you fix things, right? You're like, oh, this is a new way to make this material. It's gonna be better to fix these known issues or whatever. But there is none. You just can't do that anymore. Like we're trying to get a new yarn for some of our dryware that it's not available for at least another year, right? So
That's crazy.
you're going to see high prices, and you're going to see a lot of compromises being made in terms of selection of gear, and you're going to see a lot of repetition in terms of styles and product. I mean, it's just the impact of the supply chain right now are pretty far-reaching in ways you may not expect, for sure.
Man, I'll tell you, there's a lot of pissed off paddlers around here right now. I mean, people rip their spray skirts, they can't get a new one, break their paddles, no way to get a paddle.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you something interesting, though. You know how in the movie, God, I don't want to give away too much of the movie. I'm going to mess this up. But you know how in the movie, and just even back in the early days of all of us paddling, you had to repair your gear a lot?
You have to make your gear.
Well, not, yeah.
I made my first spray skirt. It was a Wallbridge kit.
Exactly. And so you had to, you know, but now, because of this supply chain shortage and everything you were just talking about, people are like building little presses to fix their paddles and refiberglass them up. Everybody's learning to sew spray skirts back together and whatnot. It's kind of interesting.
Maybe it's all for the best, man. Everybody can just chill out on the consumerism and fix their shit and get paid more and like maybe it's for the best.
It's going to be awesome.
I don't know.
You guys think? All
I
right.
don't think any of us can predict where that's going to end up.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I just can't believe how steep it is over the past 3 years. I mean, it's just like, it's nuts. You guys think Dane's going to break 4 minutes?
What's the water situation?
Water situation's good. It's going to be a good level to do it.
And yes, this is the year. Yeah, I would say yeah. I'd put money on that. Anyone some action on that?
What do you think, Liz?
I don't know. I mean, if it's the right water level, yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, he's done it in practice, eh?
Give me some odds.
Man, let's see. I'm not an odds maker. I don't know.
Minus 180.
Okay, so you're going in, Weld, he is gonna do it. You're also saying he is gonna do it, Lewis. Right?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so then I'll have to go on the other side and say he can't do it because we got nothing to wager against here if we're not gonna do it. So let's each put $20 in. All right. And I mean the odds have got to be 5-1 he's gonna do it.
No, not that good.
No.
What do you
I'd say
think?
better than 50-50, but
Yeah, I'm with Lewis.
I'd call it minus 180 on the money line.
Okay, I got you. All right, we'll see. Time will tell.
Tell us about the live stream situation. What are we gonna be able to watch this thing?
We are. We're going to be able to watch it. There's going to be 2 more cameras in there. We're going to be able to see the finish line this year.
Am I like misremembering that it was kind of like a little low quality like last year, or am I making that up?
What do you mean low quality?
Like a little pixelated.
If it's pixelated, it's going to be on your end because we're going to have a high definition 1080 60 frames per second signal going up to the end.
And you can, cool. Because like, did you do it with the satellite last year, or did you do it with something else?
No, we did it connected into a house. It's going to be, the signal's going to be really good.
Because the North Fork was pretty sick, eh?
Yeah. And we used oh God, what's that? Starlink. We used Starlink for that upload.
But that's not what you're doing this time.
No, we're going to be on fiber. We're going to be plugged into fiber at the top of the mountain. So, no, it'll be good. It's just going to be more complicated. There's going to be, 2 extra cameras. You'll see the show. And I don't know if you remember looking last year, if you remember this, but the way it is with the 1 minute interval, you could really only get that period from go left kind of through the first set of slides before the next racer came in to go left. Do you remember that? So this year we're going to start the top 20 in 2 minute intervals. So you'll be able to see each one of their complete runs. And we'll have a split time that comes in. So,
but not the finish time, because you guys are saving that for the party.
We're saving that for the party, but it's almost impossible to do that. So, because they can't get a signal out of the gorge with their system. Unless somehow we built like some internal Wi-Fi system in the gorge. Anyway, we don't have the money to do that. But it's going to be good. It's going to be extra cameras, extra stuff.
What's the date?
November 6th. Saturday, November 6th. We got some
It's
interesting...
chilly.
Are you really?
Yeah, that's chilly that day. What's what day we land?
Well, they got internet down there. You can watch it.
I have other projects in mind besides watching the green race.
Interesting storyline. So Dane, obviously a big storyline. I don't see anybody, unless Dane really messes up, anybody challenging him for that position. But we're going to have definitely the most competitive women's class we've ever had. I think we're going to have like 18 women this year, which is really huge. And the juniors class, it just blows me away. I mean, there are a lot of really fast. I mean, I'm going to get beat by a couple of teenagers this year. It's gonna hurt. But no, it's going to be a good race. I'm stoked. I'm definitely full on into kayaking season right now, so that's always a good time for me.
Sick. How's your elbow?
It's like 90%. It's way, but I would call it 40 to 50% last year, and it's like
Sick.
90%. And I think I can kayak 2 days in a row now. I couldn't even kayak 2 days in a row last year, so I'm totally happy with it. It's whatever. I'm gonna lay a time down. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna beat Hale.
Sick.
I'm gonna beat Hilke. I'm gonna beat some people. So. Lewis, roll me up here on. Let's hear about some policy front issues.
Oh, dude, have you guys been paying much attention to like all the reconciliation and infrastructure conversation?
Well, last I heard was Manchin pretty much put all the carbon tax and utility waste regulations and threw all that under the bus. Is that part of what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's all part of the conversation, right? It's like the Senate passed this bipartisan infrastructure bill that's really just focused on like bridges and roads. I want to say like the beginning of August, might have even been back in July, but the House is sort of holding off on that as some leverage to pass this bigger package that's like, all the things that Biden campaigned on more or less. And I don't know, I guess it's been like a bit exasperating, like just like paying attention to the news coverage of it and listening to like even, Biden talk about it, because it's just like everything you hear is just like, oh, is it like 3.5 trillion or is it 2 trillion, or like what's Joe Manchin going to do, or what's Kristen Sinema going to do? And like there's like no real conversation about like the specifics of like what's in this thing. Like it seems insane to me that Biden is not just like selling the shit out of all the stuff that's in this bill, because it's like it's a lot of stuff that matters to people. And like honestly, like I don't even know outside of the stuff that's relevant to us. But like, there's like a huge amount of stuff in here. Like, there's this civilian climate corps that's, you know, basically like a new revamped version of the CCC that like built all this like public lands infrastructure back in the 30s. There's like a huge amount of money for fire mitigation, and like basically every budget line that we like ever advocate for the Forest Service is getting like a huge plus up. There's a bunch of you know, protections for these landscapes, because this place Oak Flat down in Arizona, that's this like super important indigenous cultural area, and also has a ton of climbing that basically got sold at the behest of John McCain for a copper mine, and they're gonna, you know, potentially reverse that through this bill. It's like withdrawing all of the like lease sales in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, like hard rock mining and fossil fuel reform. It's like just so much money for so many good things. There's money for stream gauges in there, just like keeping all the USGS gauges online, which is like, that'd be nice. Anyway, it's like, it's a big deal. There's a ton of stuff in here. And, you know, I think the complication of all of it is like really like the most important thing that they need to do is to go big on climate right now, because like the last chance that we had to do anything big on climate was like the first 2 years of the Obama administration, and we missed it. And like, we just can't punt this for another 12 years. Like, it's just too urgent. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, whether they find something that's meaningful on the climate front. I mean, there's a lot of things in there that are going to contribute to climate change for sure. But like, the big thing is this clean electricity performance plan that it seems like Manchin has nixed. But it seems like we're working right now to try to find something that would be like the Manchin be more amenable to. So I guess honestly, like, you know, I think just given, you know, how much of the focus has been on the politics and how much focus is on like the top line number, people are able to write to their members of Congress right now and just be like, you know, like, please go big on climate change. And I'm really pumped about all the public land stuff that's in here. I think it would be a meaningful contribution right now. You know, I think there's a lot of Democrats that are sort of, you know, worried about spending all this money in the face of inflation, or just, you know, people mumbling about the deficit. And it's like, this is our last big opportunity maybe to like do something really big on climate, and like they just like need to hear it from constituents right now. So I don't know, I try not to, yeah, I mean, please like go outdoorlines.org, check it out. Make it real easy for you to write to your Congress critters. Like, please do it.
You make a good point about not bragging about the parts that are in the bill. You know, it's really, I mean, there's headlines about the negotiation, and like you talk about like a few different senators, but you don't ever really hear exactly what you're getting, like what, you know, what the stickler things
Totally.
are. So
yeah, it's like they just need to be doing a better job of selling this thing. But anyway, like, from our perspective, there's a lot of stuff in there to like. And like, the thing about Manchin is like, you know, like, it's like if you think of him and you're like the alternative to Manchin is like AOC or something, it's like, yeah, you're going to be frustrated. But if you know, like, the thing about Manchin is like just think of him as like a more reasonable than normal Republican, and you'll be a lot happier, you know? Like, right. Trump won West Virginia by like 20 points. Like, you know, we could do a lot worse. And yeah, I mean, it's super frustrating, the climate stuff. Like, I'm not saying I'm not frustrated, but I don't know. I feel like, I reckon we probably have a fair number of listeners in West Virginia, and like, your opinion on this matters more than anybody. So like, if you do live in West Virginia, write Joe Manchin, tell him what you care about, you know?
Man, I'd like to be a fly on the wall with some of those conversations going on around the hill right now. I mean, do you get little bits of information trickled to you from the inside, Lewis, about?
Yeah, I feel like less when it's like this sort of really high level, super under the spotlight kind of negotiation. You know, like, yes, for sure I hear stuff, but I never know how much like credence to give it. And, you know, I feel like nobody knows anything right now, and it's like everything is still up in the air. But I do think that they will ultimately pass some version of this. It's just how big and what's in it, you know? And like, I think we have an opportunity right now. It's like, I mean, that's the other thing that's important to think about right now is like, they have this bill and it's really good, but they're like, okay, we got to make this like half the size, like what's going to stay in and what's going to go, and like making sure that the stuff we care about, like for, you know, public lands and waters, like that's not what gets left on the cutting room floor. Like that's going to get decided based on, you know, in part at least on like what members of Congress are hearing from their constituents right now. So.
Interesting. Well, fingers crossed. I don't know. I read an article that made it sound like some of that stuff was kind of on the chopping block.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think a lot of the public land stuff, I mean, everything I've heard is that, like, I haven't heard anything like to like totally freak me out about it. But I mean, I think the big climate stuff, like the Clean Electricity Performance Plan, you know, it seems like that's probably dead, but they need to come up with something else that's going to make a meaningful difference in terms of like electricity emissions.
Man, yeah. Go to outdooralliance.org. Make your voice heard. You guys are doing good work. Did you ever get a new employee, Lewis? Did you get an
Still
assistant?
working on it. Still working on it.
Am I still in the running, or have I been cut?
We can talk about it.
You're applying, Will?
I mean, I saw the benefits package, and I was like, yeah, I'll do that. Whatever.
Do we have a Hammer Factor listener in the running?
We do.
Yes. All right.
Do we have a paddle feather?
I got a really nice cover note that referenced paddle length and offset and a PS to the cover letter.
Okay.
So I was like, all right.
Okay. All right.
That's going to move you up somewhere for sure.
Seriously, right?
For sure.
And it was over 200.
Yeah, several hundred.
Dude, and this is how I know we're right about this paddle length thing. Because
Oh, I thought you meant the number of applicants. No. But here's the thing is like if you're like 5'7", like you don't need to be using a 200. It's like we throw this around like it's like the hard and fast rule. It's like if you're 6 feet tall, you should definitely have a 200. But like
if you're 6 feet, you should be like 203 or something.
no.
Right. Oh, please.
Are you serious?
I mean, I'm
Jesus
6'2" when
Christ.
I use a 203.
Okay. I'll tell you how I know that I'm right on this 200 or longer thing.
Go. You tell him.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Because
I got your back.
a couple weeks ago, I was running shuttle with someone on the river,
Mhm.
and I had my surge,
Yep.
and someone else had a surge,
Yep.
and our paddles got swapped. I didn't realize it until like 2 weeks later, and I put up the Odachi, went out to the green, and pulled out this surge and got on the water, and the thing felt like a toy. So I started texting
Right.
everybody
Toy.
that I was with.
Toy Geltman.
Exactly. Everybody I was with the whole time, I'm like, somebody's got my paddle. Who's got a surge? Could not trace it back to who it was either. But what I think is someone knows that they've got my paddle, and they're like, I'm so glad I got rid of that thing. This thing
Seriously.
is a real
They're
paddle.
laying treats.
So
They're
someone's out there just laying
treats.
treats with my
right.
203 surge right now, and I'm stuck with this little wanker stick, and it's just not a good thing. It's not a good thing. So I'm going to sell it. Anybody in the market for a 190 whatever, doesn't really matter what it is. It's short, surge, hit me up. Straight shaft, 30 degree.
Was going over retail yet?
I'm sure it will be.
It's an appreciating asset.
Right.
Anyway, we digress. Okay, should we talk about this movie? Because we're about 4 minutes from getting our guests on here.
Have you figured out where this movie is, how people can see this movie, or when it's going to be available? Like, what's
Yes,
the
dude,
vehicle? by
because the link that they sent us expired, and I just paid for it on Amazon. It was the best $3.50 I've ever spent in my life.
is that where it is? Amazon.
It's on Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get it through
Yeah,
like Vimeo
Like
Direct
honestly,
and
you
whatever.
should just pause right now and just watch this movie. Like
Seriously, get your family together, your kids, whatever. It's a movie everyone will enjoy, right?
Totally.
And it's phenomenal. And if you love kayaking, you love adventure, it doesn't get any better than this. Seriously.
It's very seldom that we all three 100% agree, and we all three were like blown away by this film. So take it from your Hammer Factor host there.
I watched Dune this week too. That was it had absolutely nothing on Godspeed Los Polacos, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, just do a Google search for Godspeed Los Polacos. Buy the movie. It's awesome. It's really good. And we're going to talk about it here in a little bit. I've probably already said too much about it. But what I want to do real quick is just kind of read the summary of the film here. Or part of it. Godspeed Los Polacos tells the story of 5 kayakers on the edge of adulthood who skillfully pull the strings of the Soviet system and find themselves on an expedition in the Americas with a 6-wheeled military truck, homemade equipment, and little to no whitewater skills. The story follows their epic 2-year journey that culminates in the record-breaking first descent of the world's deepest canyon and finds the kayakers in Soviet crosshairs after they leverage their newfound fame to fight for democracy in the Eastern Bloc. All right. I'm going to let you guys have the show here while I try and get our guys here.
Well, have you run the Kolka?
No.
I have not.
Have you,
either.
Grace?
No, I have not either. I've never been kayaking in Peru.
It seems like something that would have been on the short list, but I'm not sure why we.
It's definitely still a classic. I mean, I guess when I was down there, we were there kind of the main thing was the Abismo, which I think you want quite low water for, and I think the Kolka, I think you want a little bit. It's like a little bit different season.
Huh. The footage looked great. I mean, the river looked like a lot of fun back in the 70s.
Looked pretty harrowing back in the 70s. It'd be a lot of fun now, I think.
Like a homemade fiberglass, 13-foot fiberglass boat, yeah.
Oh, man.
How'd Darby like Austria?
Oh, yeah, we should have got her on to give us the report. She's down at Russia's editing something. I think it was cool. It sounded like the organization had some hiccups, but yeah, good, I think.
We can talk about this after the.
Okay.
Howdy.
I think
Hey.
we have Adam here. Can you see us, Adam?
That's me. I can.
Okay. Let me see if I can get
Hey.
Piotr.
We got everybody.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to butcher your names really quick. I'm going to do my best here. Welcome to the show, Piotr Chmielinski. Oh, that was
Very
horrible.
close. Very close.
Yeah, good
Very
try. And welcome to the show, Adam Nawrot. How was that, Adam?
That's pretty good.
Okay. All right. There we go. So anyway, I called these guys earlier to try and figure out how to do my best to not butcher their names completely, but I think I just did anyway. Yeah, guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us. So excited to be here.
You're excited. I feel completely starstruck, to be honest.
John and
Yeah.
John. And we have John, Grace, Louise Gatemar, and John Well. So I butchered now your name. Just
Whatever.
okay.
Perfect.
Thank you for inviting us.
Of course. Jeez.
No, great to have you. And Adam, I want to start off by saying great job on the film.
Thank you so much.
All three of us 100% agreed, and it is an amazing film, and we think everybody should go out and get it right now. All
Yeah,
right.
where is the movie distributed? Where can we find it?
So it's available on Amazon, iTunes, Vimeo on demand, all the kind of on-demand streaming services out there.
Okay. I want to say it again, just so you guys know how we're plugging this. I would recommend this to literally anybody who likes kayaking and a great adventure story. It was honestly one of the best movies I've seen in years. And my
And,
kids
like-
loved it, and I loved it. It was just awesome.
And just
Everything.
like anybody, I mean, you don't even have to love kayaking to just find this movie totally inspiring, I think. Like, just amazing.
Yeah.
John, you said your kids even like it. So
Yeah.
What are the ages of your kids?
13 and 16.
All right.
Yeah.
I needed to check, because if they were 3 and 4, I will not believe you.
No. No, they loved it. And yeah, I mean, I'll leave it at that. I want to get on with the story here, but I could not recommend it more highly.
So Adam, I'm going to throw it over to you real quick. Just kind of tell us where the idea came from for this film and how it all came together.
Sure. So my parents emigrated to the United States from Poland in the late 80s, and they landed in New Jersey, where one of the 5 expedition members ended up after the expedition was said and done. And so the Polish community here in New Jersey is, relatively tight-knit in certain aspects, especially if you had an adventurous persuasion. And so my dad was a climber and a sailor, and he met Jurek, who was one of the kayakers on this expedition. And so I grew up kind of knowing about this infamous character who went on this like crazy adventure. I didn't really understand all the parts and the pieces or anything of how it like fit together. But as I grew up, I got into filmmaking, and I love adventure movies, exploration movies, kayaking movies. But like, I was just always kind of tired of hearing the same old story. They went up on the mountain, it was cold, it was hard, they lost a finger, they came back. And so when I was racking my brain about like a good story to tell, I kept coming back to this one. I was always curious about it. And so I would approach Jurek about it. I'd be like, hey, we should sit down, shoot an interview. But you got to understand that he only remembered me as this like little kid who would run around his backyard during barbecues and stuff. And he's like, you don't make movies. What are you talking about? And so we like over the like years, I would come back to him and ask him to like let's do an interview, let's tell a story. And he was super protective of it, because it's all archival materials that were like, this is fragile stuff. It's like 16 millimeter film. It's archival photos and stuff. It's like precariously stored away in his basement. He wasn't just going to open this archive to anyone. But finally, we got him to sit down after about like 4 years of like begging him to do so. And, we approached this project thinking that we were going to make a cool like 20-minute thing that was sort of like Valley Uprising, but for whitewater. And it would take a few months and we'd be done and we'd move on with our lives. And we were totally petrified when we realized that we were telling a feature-length story, that this story was so much bigger and so much crazier than anything that we even thought it was going to be. And so to that extent, I think that Jurek maybe was right. Those times that he said, nah, you guys aren't ready for this.
Yeah, you pulled it together. I mean, you did the story justice for sure. I mean, was this your first feature-length film that you did?
This is our first feature, and it was horrifying. I mean, if you had asked me, because I've been into filmmaking for like my entire life, but I always kind of thought about it in like, small commercial projects, small documentaries and stuff. And if you had asked me what hell looks like, I would tell you it looks like editing a feature-length documentary. And I think I would maintain that answer. It is such a brutal amount of work. And we really wrestled with that through making this film, but I think we came out on the other side. I mean, it was hellacious. But what we really loved about this story is the fact that it's a group of like would-be starry-eyed kayakers who, against all odds, managed to pull off what must be one of the best and grandest adventure stories of all time, through sheer tenacity and just scrappiness. And I think that we really pulled off the film in a very similar style.
Man.
So, John, you asked about Adam. When I saw Adam for the first time, he came to the office I am sitting now with Sonia. And again, we didn't see any background. We didn't see too much of the record. And what brought the rest of us to cooperate and work on it, their enthusiasm. Sonia and Adam, they were so enthusiastically taken by the story that we saw in them what we were in our 20s and 30s. And when I spoke with the rest of the group, we said to ourselves, what are we losing? We wanted to make sure that there will not be a Polish joke making that movie. That will not be something what we will be regretting. But in the same time, that was opportunity to show what we had with the archive materials we had in our basement, like Jurek had, but Jacek, who was a filmmaker, not even filmmaker, cameraman, and Zbigniew, who took majority of the pictures, and everything was available to Sonia, or provided to Sonia and Adam. In the same time, how I saw it, first shots or first screenings, they dig over those 3-4 years from the archives some material which we never saw it because we did not return to Poland. So they were picking up, taking out from the archives some shots we never saw ourselves. The same when they went to Peru and even in the United States. So that was a shocking revelation for us to see what we never had opportunity to see before. And that's a big work Adam and Sonia and Adam did. And we were glad that all that worked. And we will not talk with you if they didn't resurrect the story. So thank you very much, Adam, Sonia.
One of the most remarkable things about the movie is how much footage, how much source material you have. I mean, how many hours of film and how many still pictures did you wade through to put this together? Because it looks like there was
tons,
just a treasure trove.
And so,
John, Adam, sorry. If we had all the materials, there will be a lot more. What Adam found from the film material was only small percentage because the rest was lost. And Adam, you can probably explain what happened.
Right. So throughout the expedition, sending back footage and photos to Poland to be developed and turned into stuff that they could share their expedition with. But when martial law breaks out and all the political turmoil in the movie really picks up, they lose their Polish documents, nationality essentially, and all that footage is destroyed. So there's tons of portions that are just missing. So I think that they, throughout the entire expedition, had a very strong consciousness of the fact that if they didn't take photos and didn't make videos, their expedition it didn't matter, right? So they had a very strong concept of that, and they were taking photos all the time, which really led us to have a lot of good source material to work with.
So you spent 4 years on this project, Adam.
Yeah. I think now we're really scared. Every time everyone asks us like, "What's our next project?" I'm like, "Dude, man, that takes like 4 years." And here's like the real like crux of the whole thing is that I'm like in my late 20s, and I was just sitting in front of a computer for 4 years making a movie about these guys who are the exact same age as me, going on the most epic adventure ever. That's going to be told 40 years down the line while I'm just wasting away behind this computer. So now I'm like, oh my God, now I'm pretty scared of archival documentary now.
Without giving too much away, what's the narrative arc? What's the story? Like, how can we hook people onto this?
Sure. So our little log line is that it's the lost story of the world's greatest road trip. But in a nutshell, these group of starry-eyed kayakers, kayakers is a generous way to put it. These guys have paddled some flat water in Poland, and they have this club at their university where they organize these events. And you got to understand that Poland in this era in the late 70s is behind the Iron Curtain. So there's mandatory participation for students to be on these communist parades and rallies. And so they're like, okay, yeah, we'll go on a rally, but we'll do a kayak rally. And so they're like figuring out these ways to exist in this Soviet system that retains some of their humanity. And whatever the case is, they figure it out. They realize that they love whitewater kayaking, even though there's only like one Class 3 rapid in all of Poland. It is flat out there. But they're like, we're going to travel the world. And they saw this as this ticket for them to leave. But leaving Poland at the time is virtually impossible. But they realize and they know that the one thing that the Soviets need more than anything else is good PR. They want to show that their system, their economic system, and everything is working. And one of the ways that they can show this off is by athletic achievement. And so they become the best kayakers in Poland. And they spin this yarn into allowing the system to give them leave to travel the Americas and to get all these whitewater achievements and make the Soviets look good. And what ensues after that is is a tremendous tale there.
So
I would like to correct here. While Soviets were farther away to the east from our country, from Poland, we were dealing with Polish communist government and all arrangements which were there. So just a little bit of the correction. We are talking about Poland, which was under the political domination of Soviet Union, but in the same time there was identity of Poland, Poles, and we were dealing with our own issues there.
right.
One of the things that one of the observations I made was that this was a story more, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was about a group of guys looking for adventure and exploration, and the kayaking was almost incidental, at least to begin with. It's really a story about exploring places that I've never been seen before, and the kayak just happened to be the best way to do it. But it wasn't like you guys loved kayaking, or maybe you did. I'm not sure, but maybe over the couple of years you started to really feel differently about that.
John, there is a half true in that assessment. A kayak club and the life with a club, and I am not talking about only kayak club. There were alpinistic clubs, people who were caving, doing the exploration caves. All that activity gave us additional opportunity to meet other people, be a little bit more independent, and enjoy life as much as could be enjoyed in that situation we found ourselves. So kayaking, of course, was a way to use a tool for us to open the door. So first, when we got with kayaks to the Czechoslovakia at the time, then to Romania, Yugoslavia, which was for us almost west, we realized that door we could push a little bit more and open. So kayaking expeditions, activities related to that type of adventure was a tool we used, but we love to take those kayaks and we made them ourselves. There was not too much we could buy. And so that was ambient activities. First, there was maybe 14 of us who set up a club in a university town, Krakow, where there are probably 200,000 students. And that club, which was at the beginning a Club Bystrze, which in translation is rapid. After a few years, we could get for the weekend trips 400, 500 people.
That's amazing.
So at the end of our university time, which was 78, 79, we could take that many for the trips. And so we organized trips to flat water of the north, to white waters of Polish whitewater in the south. And we could take few thousand people and introduce them to kayaking. If that was whitewater or a little bit more than whitewater, whitewater, doesn't matter. This population grew, and until now, kayaking is a big adventure type of activities. I'm not saying that we set it up. Poland, Germany, Central Europe, very active in kayaking. But in the students' population, I think in the South, we introduced a lot of people to that type of activities. And without kayaking, without the University of Mining and Metallurgy, where I was a student, and majority of the people who went for Canaan, the 79 expedition, majority were from there, without those two organizations in some way, we will never get out of Poland and organize a trip to Argentina. Can you imagine if somebody will say now in North Korea and students will like to go to Argentina kayaking, they will just put them in the north to some camps, gulag camps. In Poland was a little bit different. We found that we can, as Adam said, we can use government for political reasons from their side and for our advantage to just even throw a name Argentina and let's try. We were so we in some way did not believe that was impossible, even that was impossibility at the first. So that's where we are. We are talking with you because we were so innocent in this perception that we made it through, and then Sonia and Adam found us.
So you guys, so out of this group that decided to go on this expedition, how many of you could roll a kayak at this time?
There were probably 3 of us who could roll, but we had 5 kayakers who left at the beginning, but our role was mostly that we called that Czech type of role, where you support yourself over the paddle, lift, and John and Luis, I will ask you to get to the kayak without supporting the front, with a kayak where if you flip and do a wet exit, you come out with your seat, for you to make that roll. I will be surprised if any one of you will do it in the first shot. So we were not ready for the big whitewater rivers of Central, North, South America, but we believe that we can learn. And that's answering to your question. There was only 3 of us with a basic Eskimo roll, and that was it.
So this begs the question: there's something fundamentally different about the Polish adventurer than the American adventurer, and you see the same thing occur to some extent in like the Good Day to Die, the Brothers in the Boschkas in Russia. There's just a go for broke mentality that seems different, and it's somehow at the same time celebrated and beloved in the U.S. I've heard countless stories about kayakers going to Eastern Europe and just being blown away by the mentality of the paddlers there. I mean, am I onto something here with this, or is there a difference?
I'm gonna hop in real quick before Phil takes it away. One of our original fascinations with this story was that it so closely mirrors what's going on in the Himalaya at the time. If you look at winter first ascents of all 8,000 meter peaks, it's insane. It's Polish flags down the entire line, and we were just like, how is that possible? It's all from the same era. How are these are the top of the explorers, worldwide explorers community's goals is like Himalayan ascents, and it's all coming out of this little country that hardly has any mountains and is under behind the Iron Curtain, and what's going on there. And so that this movie for a large part was investigating that and trying to figure out what was happening there. And the Kanawanda story in the first ascent of the Kolka Canyon is a parallel to what's going on in the Himalaya, but is a lesser known one, and it has a whitewater interest, which for me at least was pretty cool.
For sure.
And I feel like what's part of what's so compelling about the movie to me is it's like you guys are doing these things I don't know. I think the comparison to mountaineering is apt, because it's like the things you have to be so hard to do these things. But the spirit that comes through from you all in the movie, it's not like we're a bunch of tough guys weathering the gnarliest things. It's just joy of exploration in a lot of ways, it's just it feels so much more relatable than that we're here to conquer mentality in a way, or I don't know. It just really spoke to me.
When Adam mentioned mountaineering and Himalayan first descents and so on, because Poland was closed for almost 40, 50 years. That opportunity to do something in the Himalayan was only to do in the winter, because everything else was done. So that's what people like Wilicki or Cichy, who stepped on the Mount Everest for the first time in 1981, I believe, that's what they did. In our case, I don't think we were looking for the kind of records. We didn't, even when we were getting out of Poland, we had few goals. And our goal was to get to Argentina, kayak few rivers. If there are some rivers which were never run before, they will be beautiful. But let's go and see the world. So after those successes with Czechoslovakia, with Romania, with Yugoslavia, we just tasted that cake Lidby, and we wanted to eat all. That's nothing more. And I think some people lost this desire to open the door. We had door closed. There was a little bit of the opening, and we just pushed and got out. And again, in the movie, it's described more like we wanted to get out of Poland. At the beginning, that was more to see the world, check what is there, and we were planning to go back because that was our country. That was we had families, some had some engagements. We left for 6 months. We didn't see some of our friends and even girlfriends for 7, 8 years. So that desire to see, to experience was very strong in all of us. And we had not only kayakers, but we had photographer and cameraman. At the beginning, we did not realize that without them, again, nobody will even hear anything about us. There will be no National Geographic stories. There will be no books. There will be no film if we didn't have Jacek and Zbigniew with us. So that was essential. And of course, if we didn't get help on the way, first in Poland, because all club, 400 some people, was helping us to get 10 people out. Without that huge help from the club, from all the students groups, we will never get out. Then what we found, and that was difficult to realize during the process, during the trip, that our enthusiasm and our goal to accomplish what we set to accomplish, get to Argentina and kayak some rivers in Argentina, was very appealing to many people we met on the way. And that helped us to do it, that even after 3 years, it took 3 years, without too much money, we made it. And that's having that goal. As always, you are all, as I look at your records, great kayakers. You probably participated in many expeditions. If you have more than 2 people on the expedition, there are always issues, there are always problems. After a few days, you believe, hey, why I am there anyway, and how I can survive 2 months, not talking about 3 years. But one thing what happened in our group, we had this one goal, get to that somehow imaginary Argentina. And that kept us moving, running, and rolling, and we made it at that time. And after that, we made a few other rivers. We got a little bit of the recognition that helped us to do a few more things. And a few kayakers few people got to kayaking because of our activities and our example. that's all beautiful, and that's probably the most what we can be proud of.
Let me ask you this: if you guys knew when you were getting ready to leave Poland that you could not return, would you have still went on the trip?
Normally, I will say never answer a question which is just rhetorical, but I believe for all of us that was a beautiful story, a beautiful adventure. So definitely I will do it, and altogether turn quite well. We have kind of realization of the dream. So you always need to follow your dreams and do it.
So
Go ahead, John.
Do you think it was? And cut me off here, Adam, if I'm talking too much about the movie. But one of the things I really liked was just no matter where you went, you guys kind of found a tribe, and all of a sudden everybody was chipping in to help you, achieve this goal of going to Argentina at the time, which shifted to paddling the Colca River for various reasons that are all in the film you got to watch. But was it your enthusiasm? Was it your sincerity? Like, what do you think caused people to gravitate around you and want to kind of help you guys along the way?
So if that's question to me, I already probably said something before. We did not realize that, but yourself, John and Luis, you have a dream, and you probably accomplish many of those dreams yourself. There are many people who, just by circumstances, they got to just do interesting but maybe not exciting jobs, and you find just young, crazy with a goal people, and they even can sing, they can pull you in, they can take you for some rafting or kayaking trips. How you will not just get together? So in some way, daydreams were or could be realized with our goals. And that's what kept us from officials in the government to the just very simple people who help us at the gas station, or somebody who helped us because our 3 tires broke in one time. And so I think we, as probably many others, adventurers who believe in what they are doing, we were one of the avenue to help other people to accomplish their own dreams. They will never make it, and I believe that's one of the successes of ours, that we could convince those who we met that with us they can in some way accomplish their own dreams. I don't know if that's a good answer here, but I am believing that that's what happens over the not only those 3 years, but over our life until now.
I think that what they lacked in equipment and skills, they made up for in copious amounts of charisma. And that's very much the thing that pulls them through the entire 3 years there.
We, my first experience with you guys, believe it or not, in an inadvertent way, was I started kayaking in Mexico in the late 80s. And we went down to like Veracruz and Palcrotombo, or Jalcomulco, and a couple of this, yeah. And we thought, this is the 80s. There's no internet or no way of knowing what people had done. And we go to a river, and we'd be like, oh, we got a first ascent. They're like, no, these Polish guys were here a few years ago and they ran it first. We go somewhere else and be like, no, these Polish guys is rapids. They're like, God damn it, they're everywhere.
So which rivers are you talking about?
We did. Let's see. We did the what's the river that goes to Palcrotombo? The Pescados, and then I think you guys were in the Santa Maria. Was that right? With the big waterfall that came in, which was a wonderful river.
Pescados.
Yeah, the Pescados is a smaller, easier one. You guys ran the Santa Maria, and what year do you think that was? Do you remember?
That was we tried first in '79 in
Yeah.
the fall, but we could not accomplish that.
Did you get to
So-
the waterfall coming in? And
No, we couldn't. So at the time, we had to change our plans. We were on the way to Santa Maria. We got there. We had some issues and problems, not even on the water. But then on the return from United States with a raft, we had previously we didn't have rafts, so we were a little bit afraid to go to the canyons and not to have any basic resupply possibilities. So when we bought in Los Angeles a raft, that's where we did kayaking and rafting at the end of the spring of 1980. That's when we did Rio Santa Maria, and that was a beautiful river for us.
Yeah, that's great.
Great turquoise water, warm water altogether. So that was when we did Santa Maria.
So along those lines, and this is something I talked with John about a couple of days ago, was how do you feel there's a fundamental difference in kayaking and exploration now with GPSs and helicopters and cell phones and Google Earth? I mean, do you think it was, I don't know, a more more sincere adventure back then, or do you think that what's changed, or do you have thoughts on that?
What I or us, we called our expedition one of those last romantic expeditions.
Yeah.
When we went to like Santa Maria or later to Colca or later I went to the Amazon in the Acobamba Abyss and we disappeared for 2-3 months. Nobody cared. We didn't send a helicopter. Nobody even knew our location.
Yeah.
We were on our own. If I oversee some expeditions now and I don't see I have a contact 2 days or 3 days, we are already trying to send help. So that's the difference. We were on our own. There was not that much information. Like you said yourself, if you were in Ades, in Mexico, you went on the river, you didn't know if somebody did that before.
Right.
If there is any even information where to put in, what the gradient, what the difficulty, if there are any waterfalls in the middle of the canyon.
Right.
And now that all is mostly available. If it's completely unrun river yet, and you do first descent, you mostly can go to Google Maps or Google Google Pro and information. Value of water you can expect. What is the grade? You can even see some rapids from the air.
Right.
And that gives you more information than ever had when you were in Ades in Mexico. That's the difference. On other one, equipment. As I said before, we had kayaks without support from the front, without a really hip attachment or support. Those were, we call them paper kayaks. Can you imagine on Colca when if I touched the rock, my kayak was gone? And then later in Peru, with those big waters in like Colca, where there are new fresh cut rocks, and so that's the huge difference. Definitely, we could not do anything as now people like Rush Sturgis or Scott Lindgren can do with their kayaks, with their experience, with their abilities to prepare and set up at the new even generation. Because even from the time of Scott, now those new kayakers are doing something where I am looking at my legs are shaking, only looking at them. So we are entering to that time where we believe that nothing new can happen, or there will be no improvements. Or at the time when we went to Pakware, Kolka, that they were almost unrunnable. And now some of those kayakers will look at those rivers and say, guys, what are you talking about? This is class 2, 3. There is nothing there. So we have a different perspective. Somebody like us needs to do that type of kayaking like you, John, did in Mexico in the 80s, for those new guys to do a lot more difficult, more complicated, and with a design and materials which are used now for the boats or rafts. We are talking about different world, but that's good. That's all great.
Good answer.
What about on your travels? This is just one thing that I've ran into at times. How do you approach the difficult situations when you're out there? When a couple different kind of scenarios here. Not so much like on the river, but those situations where you run into armed rebels, drug cartel types, those kind of things. It seemed also from the film and the articles I read about your first complete descent of the Amazon and some of the other adventures, you navigate those very well. How do you approach that situation?
We were young and stupid. In some way, it's like if I am in the even Kolka Canyon, and then in Akobamba Abyss for the first time, and we have no choice. And you probably did few rivers where you did some first descents. You don't know what to expect, and you have no way to return, because there is no way to, even if you call for helicopter, if that was even possible, nobody could get there down. You have only one way to go, forward. And stop thinking about anything else, just do it. The Sendero Luminoso group came with some arms at us, and I am standing with a raft, people in the raft, and there is no other choice. You cannot run. There will be suicidal. Only what I did at the time, knowing the little bit of political activities in the time in 1985-86, almost 1/4 of the country was controlled by Sendero Luminoso. If we ask permission from Peruvian government to go through Apurimac, one of the sources of the main sources of the Amazon, to give us permission, they will not give us, and they will remove us from the country without even with our protest. So we entered that place basing on the attitude that normally people do not go down to the canyons, and nobody will be there. Somehow through the 1 or 2 months, we will sneak through and get out. Well, that didn't happen. So I am, and what we were discussing, if that happens, guys, nobody speaks English. We are all from Poland. We have our own mission. And because at the time, Soviet and Chinese and some Polish communist groups were helping communist Sendero Luminoso. So you see a few guys with guns coming at you. you have no way to escape. So we were mostly, I was talking Zbigniew, our photographer. He had a really good Spanish at the time to use. Joe Kane, I told him he was our writer and a great companion. Don't even say that you are from United States. They were looking for those guys. So we, in some way, in friendly way, introduce ourselves. We are checking. We are coming down the river. They were really petrified and couldn't imagine that somebody could come out of the canyon to their own territory, which they were controlling. There was like a base. And in the Running the Amazon book, Joe Kane wrote, he described all the situation. So we were negotiating with them. Hey, we are here. If you let us go, we will give a good word to whoever wants to listen. You have kids and children here in that base. If you do something to us, probably some planes will be looking or helicopters looking for us. So that's kind of information I was trying to transfer to them. And after probably like 2 hours of talk, they inspected everything what we had. Even girls or women inspected Kate's breast because they wanted to see if that white person has the same type of build-up like them. And finally, we negotiated that we will give them a fishing net and we will give them 6 tuna fish cans. Everything else, we told them, hey, you can take everything from us, but it's useless. What will you do with those paddles? What will you do even with any of our gear? We got to the point when we're giving them from the bag. We gave them a fishing net, and I gave them 6 tuna fish. And somebody was wanted to get more of those tuna fish. And I said, we agree on 6. And Joe Kane said, son of a gun, give them whatever they want. And I said, no, we agreed on 6. I told them, hey, look, we agreed on 6. We need to be all right from both sides. And that's how we ended. They let us go. Now, I wanted to use 2 other tricks. John Paul II was at that time a pope in Rome from Poland. And I wanted to use that as a kind of tool for us. And I said to one of those people who I thought was in charge of that group, hey, I am from the same place, the same city as John Paul II. I know that he was in Peru, in Ayacucho, not a long time ago. And this one guy said, I was assigned to kill that son of a bitch in Ayacucho. Whoa, that didn't work. So another one,
Back to the tuna cans.
I only work with them to just because majority of even communists, they were born Catholic, so that didn't work. Another one was soccer. In Peru, South America, Central America, everybody likes soccer. So I said, Poland was playing soccer with Peru. Unfortunately, Poland beat them 5-1. But I said that probably we will play soccer again. And this guy said, well, soccer is a capitalistic way to make sure that everybody is stupid. Oh, that didn't work. But we had communication. We could talk. And again, could be that some of the wrong move will just kill us. But we got out. We got out. Again, I am encouraging everybody to read this Running the Amazon because based on some people, it's supposed to be a good book. And that's Joe Kane described our expeditions and why we survived them.
Piotr, was that the first descent of the Abyss?
As I understand, there are 2 areas when we went in 1985, 86. Black Canyon, which was about 40, 60 miles that nobody ran before, and Acobamba Abyss, which is about 100 kilometers, and based on our information that nobody ran in complete, many expeditions just walk away to avoid the most difficult part. So that's my recollection, and that's what was written when Joe Kane was writing Running the Amazon. He was trying to get all information available in 87, and that's what we believe.
What kind of boats were you paddling at that point?
So we had one raft, a Raken, self-bailer, and we had at that time dancers, which were used for 2 people, and I had on the upper part Perception Blazer. And so we had 2 blazers and 2 dancers. And that was at that time, as you probably know, to have a dancer or blazer plastic. We will never make it Apurimac without those boats, because they were already strong and very durable.
I can't imagine running those rapids in a blazer.
Hey, you saw the majority of the shots on the Kolka Godspeed Los Polacos film where somebody's in the kayak. That will be mostly me. And if you move from this kayak made in Poland to Blazer, that was like moving from Yugo to Cadillac RT. So at that time, and Jerome Turan, who got for that time dancer, was very happy to have dancer to run for the first time. He used. So Tim Biggs, another great. We had those 2 guys, Jerome Turan and Tim Biggs. Without them, we will probably not make it. Places like Acobamba Abyss, they were great kayakers, and I learned a lot from them at the time because that was a very important for us to have them. Tim Biggs from South Africa, we had him on the second Kolka National Geographic expedition, and that's how we met him. Then on the Jerome came with Tim Biggs to Amazon, and those are 2 guys which I learned a lot for the whitewater kayaking.
I want to jump back.
How long did it?
Oh, sorry, Liz, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask how long it took to get through the Abyss on that trip.
I believe we took 3 weeks at the time. I have exactly the description of the days, but it took us about 3 weeks to get through the all canyon.
Very cool.
Were you there maybe yourself? Did you go through the Apurimac in those 2 sections?
I have. We didn't do the Black Canyon, but the Abismo for sure, which definitely stands up to contemporary standards of gnarliness for sure. It's a serious piece of whitewater. It's very cool to hear about.
And what time of year did you go?
We went in October, so pretty low.
In October, so you were a little bit later than us, but probably you had not too much less amount of water than us, because we were there end of middle of September. So little bit, maybe 10-15% of the less water until November starts and rain starts to drop there.
Yeah, it's an amazing place for sure. It's just trying to imagine.
Which year did you go there?
I think that would have been maybe 2013,
So
14,
few years later.
a few years later.
Did you have a support of the raft or only kayaks?
Only kayaks.
Only kayaks. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, for us, it was 5 days.
Exactly. So look, when we did Kolka, took us almost a month with a lot of breaks, and now people do that in 2-3 days. So that's the difference. But you know what? If somebody is doing Kolka in 3 days, they do not enjoy the views. That's the difference. We need to just stop and contemplate the beauty of those places and enjoy the nature. And I believe we because of 3 years of being on the expedition, the one thing which happened to us that time was we were rushing, but not too much. So that's why it took us 3 years. And anyway, you saw the movie. So Andrzej Piętowski, who at the time was a leader of our group, we were a very democratic bunch, but we had to have always somebody who signed or negotiated with the government. So Andrzej was a leader from the second part of Canoan. So we had Jurek Majcherczyk, myself, who were mostly experienced with water, Jacek Bogucki, who I mentioned as a cameraman, as Zbigniew Zdak, photographer, and without 2 additional guys, Stefan Danielski and Biczu Krzysztof Kraśniewski, they were dumped at Guayaquil in Ecuador because some disagreement with the captain of the yacht. They were planning to go around the world, but captain just kicked them out in Guayaquil. 2 days later, we found them on the streets of Guayaquil because our car, our pickup truck Chevy, was arrested in Ecuador after landing there. So we were free, but our car was arrested and was chained. Was impossible to take it out. So we had a few days in Guayaquil, and we adopted those 2 guys. Without those 2 guys, we will never make it Kolka because there were not enough of us. And those guys who were sailors, they were not afraid of water. And if you look at the movie, there's one guy who was left in the Canyon de Reparas in the middle of the rapids. That's Biczu Krzysztof Kraśniewski, who, hey, water is water. In the ocean or somewhere in the Kolka Canyon, they were not afraid and they helped us tremendously to make it. So that was in some way one of those lucky moments where we found people and they help us to make our dreams happen. So that's all.
Just imagining it from their perspective, just being like washed up in Guayaquil, being like, what are we gonna do now? And they're like, oh, these other Polish guys are here. This is great. They're like, well, we have good news. We have bad news. The good news, we're here. The bad news is now you have to help us off the world's deepest river.
and at the time was tough to we planned to take them from that Guayaquil to Lima because they wanted to see Peru, but then that happens. So many happenings, like even 5 guys, 7 guys from Poland. How we got it to get 2 big stories in National Geographic by accident. Because we published a small book in Lima, Peru, and that book later was picked up by Jean-Michel Cousteau, son of the Jacques Michel. And one time when we were already in the United States, called Andrzej Piętowski, who was in New York, and said, "Here is Jacques Cousteau. I would like to talk with Polish kayakers." So Andrzej said, "Hey, drink another 2 beers and call me later." Immediately, another call from Jacques Cousteau, but Andrzej did not believe. So third call was from his secretary in Paris somewhere. And finally, that girl convinced Andrzej to listen. 2 days later, Andrzej and Jacek were in Calypso in Norfolk, Virginia. And what he asked us to do, help him with a production film he was doing with Ted Turner about Amazon. He wanted us to help him in the areas of the source of the Amazon, get kayaks, get rafts, get the crew. But we are stateless. We are in the United States. No way to get out. Can you imagine what the opportunity was for some guys who are completely lost somewhere in the world? But if we left, we couldn't even get out. We had no passports which were workable. And somehow, because we were living in Casper, Wyoming, we met with Senator Simpson, who in the Congress was in charge of immigration. So I met Senator Simpson, very good person, in Ramada Inn in Casper, sometime in 83, beginning of 83. And he said to me, "You know what? I cannot help. There are many rivers in the United States. Just get on them." But what Jacques Cousteau did, he called editor, his friend, editor of National Geographic, and he said that there is a group of people from Poland that did some unusual stuff. Get them. So we got a contact from National Geographic. We provided them with pictures from Kolka, from many other rivers like Santa Maria. But we had our film made on Orwo from East Germany, which was copy of Eastmat Kodak. And they were semi-color and black and white. And National Geographic said, no way we can publish anything with this material. But if you have any other ideas, so let us know. And so we proposed for 1983 expedition to Kolka. They gave us grant, and that's how our cooperation started. And so how we got to Jacques Cousteau, he found us, and the rest is the story. Without publications in National Geographic or book, again, nobody will probably hear about us, and that's all.
That's one of my favorite parts of this film, is just this cascading level of events and these doors that open up, and you guys are just so willing just to step right through them onto the next. I mean, it's an amazing. Adam, you did a great job putting it together. Of that happening, because it made me jealous. I wanted to go do it.
Sure.
Yeah, the hardest part was just figuring out how to make sense of it all, because there's so much, and you got five storytellers just like Piotr, all delivering it from all different angles, and there's so much of it, and just figuring out how to make it one digestible stream. That was the trickiest part. But when you can wrap your head around it, it only gets crazier.
Yeah, exactly. When you really digest it. Did you make all the graphics in that film, Adam? I think I noticed in the credit that you did.
Yeah, so it's a tiny production. So it was me, my partner Sonia, who produced the film. We did pretty much all of it. We realized that there were some portions and some stories that we didn't have visuals for. So at one point we even flew down to the Kolka Canyon to just shoot a bunch of just landscapes and stuff that we thought we would put in if we needed to have something on the screen. And then we ended up using none of it, because one thing that you gotta understand is when we did these interviews with these guys, they had no idea what we were doing or who we were or if this was a real project or not. So like they weren't particularly motivated to like rip open their basements and stuff to give us all their materials. But then like once we started sending them drafts and stuff, and they were like, "Oh snap, this is a real movie." That's when like all this material started coming down on us. Like, guys, like where was this? They're like, it was. We didn't want to give you too much work. I'm like, we were gonna animate all these things, and so there are a lot of animated portions in there. But like to hire a real animator is super expensive. And so I do a bunch of motion graphics in the film where I cut up some of these archival photos, make them move. You kind of do, it's like 2.5D animations, what they call it. And so we applied those techniques with a friend of ours who is a great illustrator. And so we had her draw things in layers. So we'd make like, okay, put the paddle on this layer and then the person's face on this layer and then the kayak on the other in the water. And with her skills as an illustrator and my skills as a motion designer, we came up with a solution for animation that I think seems pretty convincing. But it's funny, you'll notice like a lot of the animated movement, it goes in slow motion, which I think sells as a pretty deliberate creative choice in the film. But it's a product of the fact that like doing more motions would just be too cost prohibitive.
Just the render time.
I gotta say I was blown away by just like the editing and the degree to which all the animation sort of like flowed seamlessly with the archival footage and the interviews. Like I thought it worked amazingly well. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean honestly, it looked like you could have told me it was a multi-million-dollar production. I wouldn't have thought anything of that.
Totally.
So Adam, where are you hiding that money?
We did a Kickstarter campaign. Yeah, we did a Kickstarter campaign, which raised like I think it was like 30,000, and then you lose a little bit of that to the Kickstarter cost and whatnot. But like essentially, the money that we had left over just went to licensing archival materials. So it's like anytime you see photos of like Polish army walking around or like the Berlin Wall falling down, like that stuff is so expensive to use in a legitimate way. It's just like that money instantly disappeared. So it's just a lot of just sunk time. It was just Sonia and I working around the clock for 4 years.
Wow.
You guys put this together on $30,000?
25 essentially.
That is amazing.
Well, 25 that we raised. There's a few other things here and there, but it's mostly just our time investment.
Yeah. I hope this is a launch for Sourland Studios and everything you guys do, because that was amazing.
I hope so.
And John, two Johns and Luis. First time I saw that movie on the computer after Sonia and Adam sent to us to review, and there were definitely discussions what stays, what goes, but the final product, and I was probably not too enthusiastic. From my point of view, there could be some cuts or some additions. But when I went to Telluride and later to Boulder and late just now to Poland, and when I watched that movie with a public around me, with people and commenting and laughing, and every time I watch, something new comes, and then I see what Sonia and Adam did. There is life there. There is perseverance, and I never look at that this way. You can follow that documentary and see from the beginning to the end. It's the goal oriented, and that's Adam and Sonia. That's for you. That's from us. Mm-hmm. You did a great job there, and I feel like I am observer. Even you can see me there in the kayak from time to time, and that's a nice, great feeling to have that to show now to not only to family but to others, and mostly to the whitewater and kayaking world, because there are many of us.
One of the kind of most satisfying things that we encountered was when we went to do Zbigniew's interview, and Zbigniew is a photographer on the expedition, and he works for the Chicago Tribune as a photojournalist. So this is a guy who thinks about visual storytelling all the time. And he was, happy to do the interview and everything, but he was just like, why are you doing this? It's like, he just like didn't understand. It's like, this is a story that's already been told. It's 40 years ago. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like doing else. And for me, that strikes me as this like perfect example of someone who's like too close to the picture to see it. Because the 40 years of time that we get to look back onto this story with is exactly what gives the story or the film value. It's just that we get to see how it fits into the context of the world, and it makes it so much more than like a standard adventure movie.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, in just looking at it, I mean, you're the perfect guy to tell a story too, Adam, because you're scrappy, low budget. You know what I mean?
John, I will correct you here, because I didn't know about Sonia and Adam, their outdoor activities. And you know what? Adam is a professional kayaker. And
Okay, whoa. Settle down. They're going to ask you about my feather angle in a second.
Oh, we're getting to that. We're getting to that.
He started to show the drops and rapids and where he went, and with mountaineering and so on. So you need to have person like that, and Sonia too, who does a lot together with Adam, to understand this part of how to show, how to present, and that opened my eyes and all others that we did not in some way at the beginning believe that Adam and Sonia can do it, because we didn't know what they do in real life, and that was very, very important for me to find it, and that's and to understand they were capable to make it, because what they do, what they like to do, and this kind of youth enthusiasm which was transferred from them to the movie.
And for us, the film was a really personal story in that it let us explore the circumstances of our parents' immigrations to the United States. So Sonia also is a first-generation Polish American whose parents immigrated in the late 80s. And so it was an opportunity for us to really dig in and unpack the world that they were leaving behind to come to the United States with.
Are you guys still friends? Everybody who was on the expedition?
We are all friends as a group. There are some issues between some of us, but if we need to put together in the for last 25 years in my home at Virginia, we did reunited with not only those members of the from the Cano Andes expedition, but many other kayakers. Sometimes my wife will be asking me day before gathering how many people will be coming to our home, and I will say, well, 20, 40, maybe 50, maybe a little bit more. And so we try to get together and be together.
The Potomac River Rendezvous. They all paddle the Potomac every year.
And what happens too, that we will say Potomac speaks Polish on Labor Day every time. What's important too here, like my two sons and sons of other are quite good kayakers. And my older son, Max, he's many times better kayaker than I ever was. And the same for Alex. Max is mostly kayaking because he loves that. Alex will be kayaking. He's a good kayaker, but he will do that when girls are around. So
that's like Grace. Grace is the same way.
What are you talking about?
To some Eskimo roles. But I am proud that over the years, we probably introduced to kayaking, a lot of young people. When Max and Alex were in elementary school or high schools, we were taking to the Potomac 20, 30 people, and I had enough kayaks to provide equipment and all the paddles and all the life jackets. And that's probably our role now. Get young generation out of the computers and games and do some activities. And if we accomplish something, all of us from that group and others, that will be something that I am proud of. That they know what kayaking is, what pleasure brings. So get out and get to the nature.
Amen. There's so many little storylines on here that we've talked about, like the importance of clubs, introducing people, like your Whitewater Club and the scene that it had. I mean, we could just go into so many different little facets here. But one thing I want to ask you about in the movie, and again, cut me off, Adam. I'm doing the wrong thing here. But you guys get out of the country, you go through all the effort, you show up in Mexico, and it's your first time on Whitewater. What was that experience like? Because it kind of got cut short a little bit in the film, but it seemed like there was some action, what was your, tell me about that.
So there is a river, Pescados, and we brought 27 kayaks with us from Poland, and there are 6 of us who can do some kayaking. And water looked a little bit bigger than probably biggest river in Poland, Polish river Dunajec. That river was probably twice as big. And like in the film was described, after 30 minutes, we lost 7 kayaks. Hopefully, we did not lose anybody. So that was our first experience. If you are a little bit, if you read water but not to the end, and you are new place, looked acceptable, but was pushy, was difficult. There were a lot of rocks, and that was a huge cold water on our shoulders dropped, because we realized at that moment we are not ready for any. And if you know Pescados, it's maybe 2 to 4 somewhere class river. And that's all. So, but maybe that's good, because again, with our circumstances, if we landed in Peru for the first time, or even in Argentina, and we didn't have that time for 1.5 years to prepare ourselves, Mexican rivers, those which we kayak, even Santa Maria, it's forgiving, and so we train ourselves, got to a lot more exercise, and over another 1.5 years, almost 2 years, prepared. So answering your question, that was a shock. That was a realization. Our skills were not ready for challenging any of those rivers, and Mexican rivers were really altogether very small. If we ended or we started with like Marañón River during the rainy season, the fish will be bigger until now, because of there will be no chance for us to survive.
It didn't dampen your spirits at all. That was great about it.
No, we were maybe down for a few days, but we had to find solution. We couldn't say, "Hey, that's it. We are coming back to Poland." That was not even in anybody's mind. We had to find a solution, and that's finding a solution was probably what saved us all the way through the expedition.
So you have a ton of expeditions, first ascents, things like that under your belt, but now you've kind of transitioned into this, and I need a little better understanding of this. So you have a company or a business or just a side thing that you do where you facilitate expeditions, sponsor them. How does that work? What is that all about?
Well, we will never accomplish anything as a canoandes without that kayak club Bystrze or university or later all the friends, and realized all from 5 or 7 expedition members that now we have a little bit of obligation to help others who have dreams and do something related to water. In my case, if somebody is doing something related to Amazon, somehow I am pulled in, and with a little bit resources, financial resources, I can help others to just get them if there is a problem, to sometimes help even financially, but majority of my help is logistical, contacts, information. If somebody goes to South America or even Central America, and I try to keep contacts with a lot of people, friends, as we said before, we are keeping contact with those people we met in 1980s. And that's very, in some way, not, I will say, that's very helpful from both sides because we are in touch. But if there is a problem for some expedition in Peru, I can, even now from United States, help with sending people or some help. So, for example, in case of that was kayaker Alexander Doba, who crossed Atlantic 3 times, and well, nothing be special if he was not 67 years young when he started crossing the Atlantic by kayak. And after his first crossing from Africa to Brazil, nobody really knew anything about him. There were 2 people who greeted him when he landed on Brasilia beach. So with a second expedition, when he said he will like to cross from Lisbon, Portugal to Florida, I became a media coordinator. So my role was to let people know about him and that way financially help him to even get some additional help. So because of my contacts, even in like National Geographic in Poland and here in the United States at the time, I wrote, I don't know, 15, 20 stories about Oleg crossing the Atlantic 2-3 times. And if he got in trouble in the Atlantic, and was stuck somewhere south of Bermuda. So I just went to Bermuda, got a fishing boat, found him on the Bermuda Triangle, and didn't help him in the way that I pull him or anything. We just found that he's okay. He needed another 3-4 days to get to Bermuda. And there was a funny situation with him where we wanted to, I got like a Polish TV with me to film him at the time. We tried to give him some food or some supplies. And he said, no, I am on my own. You are just here to see me, but I cannot accept anything from you. And he gave us a few bars of chocolate. So that was an interesting story. So my role was in that case just to help let people know about his activities. Another one, there were 2 brothers. They had a crazy idea, David Andres and Hubert Kisiński, to do something with the Amazon. They took 2 bikes, got from Pacific to the area where they were planning to go to the area where they could put those bikes on the water and make like a kind of catamaran with a transfer from their pedals to the rudder in the back, and get that way mechanically transfer power from the legs to the water. I thought that is crazy and just unrealistic idea. So at the beginning, I was a little bit not sure if that was worth it for me to even be involved. But what happened? After 2,000 kilometers, they got to the area of one of the sources of the Amazon, Lake Tlacocha, 5,150 meters, and they sent me pictures that they not only got there with bikes, they had to carry those bikes there, but for the first time, somebody took bikes to that area. They were swimming in this small lake, freezing 5,000 meters above the sea level. So I believe that if they have to walk down the river, they will make that expedition happen. So I was accepting to be a media coordinator for them, and they are quite famous in Poland now. And the idea was something new. If you say biking the Amazon, and that's the name of the expedition, that's you will see a few interesting stories, pirates and narcotraficantes, and how they did all that over the again, took them about 6-7 months to make it, and I had example of 2 people who I admire a lot. That was Michał Woroch and Maciej Kamiński. Handicapped, they cannot operate their legs just below the waist. But imagine you cannot use your legs, but they had an idea to prepare a Land Rover from 1980s or maybe 75. They prepared that Land Rover, sent from Poland to Buenos Aires, drove to Tierra del Fuego, and from Tierra del Fuego to Alaska, Prudhoe Bay, Washington, New York. And again, I was kind of media coordinator, wrote a lot of stories, helped them if there was some problem with car broke again a few times. It took them 1.5 years. But when they came to Washington, to my office, and people saw them, and how enthusiastic those 2 guys were. And you can imagine, when I saw them, they normally takes them about 35 to 40 minutes to get to the car in the morning and get out of the car if they need to get out. Because there's they had like lifts, they had different help. But so John and Luis, imagine yourself, if you go to the car and you need 40 minutes to get to the car, you will think about not to forget something. But if you forget, you need to go back. And those guys were so enthusiastic that some people in my office were saying, you know what, I cannot complain anymore about something what happened today. Looking at those people who have so much desire to live every day with what they got and not to complain because they have another day to live. It's a kind of example. We organized for them a presentation in Explorers Club in New York. People could not stop clapping after that presentation because it's it's so again. Your question was what I do. I like to be involved, and even I don't have time now running a company, environmental company in Washington D.C. Those are my expeditions. I with them at current time. There is a person from London. He sold his house in 2014. His name is Pete Casey. So I wanted to connect David Andres, Hubert Kishiński with the Pete Casey in 2014, when they were close to Marajo Bay, close to Belém. But that didn't work. So since that time, I am in touch with Pete Casey. And Pete Casey, after selling his house, and he's a bricklayer from London, had an idea to see Amazon and walk. Nobody did it before. From the Belém Atlantic to Pacific, or the area of the sources of the Amazon. He thought that he will do that in 2 years. Started in 2014. Today is 2021. He is yet today in a place called San Francisco Apurimac. He has another 8 to 1 year to get to the top of the mountains, and for him to survive all the travels, COVID, and being there, I just got information from him that he will get to that San Francisco probably today afternoon. I am involved with helping him in the contacts and little bit of financially, but I believe in people like that. And if they can, if we as a group, because we do that as a Canoandes organization, which grew out of our Canoandes group. So if we believe in somebody, that's where we help. And so I don't know if I answer your question, but
you could call yourself an expedition promoter.
No. I believe I am repaying what we got previously from many people. So that's all. And Adam, you probably saw our group. You met the majority of our people. Everybody is the same attitude like mine in that case. Do you?
Do I think so? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think that that I've heard many people refer to Piotr as the godfather of the Amazon. So kind of any expeditions happening in the Amazon now, you seem to have some sort of influence on what's going on down there.
Somebody name me like that and stick. So I need to work hard to keep that name.
Well, I don't know. It's a pretty amazing life that you've lived, amazing film. I mean, we could go on and on, but we're so far over our time limit right now, we probably got to shut this down. But before we let you go, what's your paddle length and feather?
Oh, no. Phil, go ahead.
Paddle length 177, 178. And I see you asked me about paddle length?
Yeah, paddle length for whitewater.
Yeah, it says 177, 178. For some reason, I measured that a few days ago. And so I use 80 paddle. You know those paddles?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And sometime will be Wagner paddles, that type. And nothing special, just works for me. Because again, remember from the Godspeed was Polacos, I was using wooden paddle in Kolka. John or Luis, could you imagine going to the Acobamba Abyss with a one wooden paddle?
That sounds scary.
So
what about you, Adam?
You guys are gonna rip on me for this one. I'm at 197, but a 0 degree.
All right, well, that cuts the interview right there.
I thought for sure we were gonna get like 214, 90.
I think you
left-hand
need to
controls.
remeasure that paddle.
So that was in inches. You probably realized that. 7 to 8 inches.
What? So are you a 197
Wait.
centimeters?
No. 78 inches is how long your paddle is?
Yeah. 7 to 8 inches. So how many centimeters?
Hang on.
John's getting out the calculator.
Let me check this out.
I may take this review of the movie back here in a second.
Okay, that's a 198. So
Okay.
All right.
Right.
the 177. That's what's going on there.
Yeah, that's some skill.
77, 78 inches. Sorry, I didn't give you that.
That's probably wore down just a little bit. I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
Well, sincerely, guys, thanks so much for coming on the show. Is there anything else, Adam, you'd like to add about Godspeed, Los Polacos, before we let you go?
Well, I just hope everyone gets an opportunity to check it out. I think it's a pretty unique story in the whitewater space.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right.
So John and Luis, thank you for bringing us, and again, to everybody who listen, Godspeed Los Polacos. If you want to learn here or remember again about historical situation in Poland, which affected everybody in the world, solidarity and the collapse of the colonies, you all had some effects of that. Please watch that movie.
For sure.
All right.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much. What an honor.
Thank you.
Really.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. We'll talk to you later.
Take
All
care.
right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
That was great, man. You will not regret watching this movie. Like, watch this movie. It's unbelievably good.
Dude, he's still got that enthusiasm, you know?
Totally.
It's just like such annoying optimism. But I love it.
Yeah,
You know
I mean,
what I don't mean it in a bad way, you know? It's just
I mean, the movie just has like everything, you know? It's just like adventure and just wrapped up in the history of it all. And like, it's just,
And the
it's
budget.
unbelievable.
And the budget for
Yeah.
the movie,
which
It's
there was none.
mind-blowing.
right?
There was none.
There was no, but you watch it. I mean, it looks honestly as good as anything else you'd see, and out of Hollywood or anything. I mean, certainly it's entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, Darby and I watched it 2 nights ago, and she's like, I hope this wins the like best documentary Oscar. You know,
Yeah.
like it's so legit.
Yeah. You can tell there was a lot of passion in the interviews by the filmmakers themselves. I mean, it hit all the buttons. Well, we were going to get into some listener mail, but we're too deep, guys. I gotta run. Let's move on to everyone's favorite section of the show. This is Rants and Raves, where our hosts go on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave. Who would like to go first?
I'm prepared for once.
Oh,
Yeah, I won too.
well, by all means, take the lead.
I'm gonna rave about the Whitewater Video YouTube channel, which has unearthed such gems as
Oh God.
Great Falls Race 1991, featuring John Weld racing in a Phoenix Cascade.
You sent me a link to that, and you'd think I'd remember racing the Great Falls in a Cascade, but I have no recollection of that whatsoever. That was
I'm pretty sure I was there watching. I'm pretty sure I saw myself on the rocks as a 11-year-old boy in the,
Were you, like,
in the
punching
video.
Ryan Bond, like kicking him in the
It was
dick or
definitely
something
Ryan.
while the race is going on.
I'm pretty damn sure it was Ryan and I there watching the race, because I was like, I think I was there. And then Jason Sullivan racing in the Perception Reflex pitons at the spout. I'm like, oh yeah, I was there for sure watching that. I remember that. And then whoever this person is posted the 95 Great Falls race, which is like the first year I raced. And it's just like me and all my friends when we're like 15 years old racing Great Falls. And like, there's like a video of Jesse Whittemore's like attainment, like the World Championships of attaining on the Upper Yock in like 95.
Oh, I watched that one. That was a good one.
I was so bummed. I wanted to race that, and I think I was like in Europe or something. But he had done this slots race the year before that was like to this day the best kayaking event I've ever been a part of. And I hope somewhere that video exists and gets unearthed, but I'm not sure if there is any. But I don't know. It's just like a blast from the past. It makes me feel old for sure, but I'm enjoying watching it. That 91 race, I mean, it's like all my kayaking heroes, you know? It's like John Lugbill is racing, and Tom and Weld and Andy Bridge, and like you're just like, oh man, this is awesome. I'm like, oh yeah, that was my like camp counselor at the lake. Like it's awesome.
I gave you your lakes and riffles card.
How'd you do, Weld?
I have no idea. I can't remember it at all.
How'd he do, Lewis?
I remember nothing of it.
I want to say like 6th or something like that. The results are in there at the end.
Finish. Well, I'm just going to rant real quick about just not being able to get any gear or anything for kayaking.
Dude, how can you rant about that after listening to Piotr talk about it? It's like
it's a wimpy
sewing
rant.
your own spray skirt out of
It's a wimpy
garbage
rant. I'm just hoarding at this point, you know. Like I'm just
right
scared to use my stuff.
All right, I have a rant.
Yes, bring it.
I have a rant. It's not that powerful. It's a rant against what I call treat porn. And treat porn is a new thing now, where you run a drop and you're in your OG or your Scorch, and you do like that little pinky off the paddle as your boat skips out from the drop to show like how it stayed on top of the water. That's like a thing now in videos. You guys seen that?
I always do that. You don't do that?
I'm just saying it's treat porn. You don't need to cover it in videos. You know what I mean?
Pinky's up, man.
You do your boof. You have first of all, you shouldn't even have the helmet cam to begin with. But if you do, don't do the treat porn. That's an aesthetic we don't need.
Dude, pinky's up is just good style, man. I'm gonna contest you on this.
I'm gonna back my rant up.
Shows
with
you're
a
not
rave.
like death gripping.
You're gonna back who?
You're a pinky type, Lewis?
Yeah, I think so.
Can someone from the gorge get me some footage of Lewis so I can see this happening? I got to see what this looks like.
He has a very lanky, slalomy style.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with
Turning into the Tin Man in my old age.
I'm gonna rave about the junior racers, kids out there. 15 years old, lifting weights in the takeout, vegetarians, just living the good, clean life and just kayaking so well. So that's been my most inspirational thing of the past 3 or 4 weeks kayaking. Kids out there crushing.
Can I make a request for next episode?
Yeah.
Some guy wrote us about the Big Gun Show, Vacation to Hell. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep. It's on the trail.
It's time we take a deep dive into that, isn't it?
We can deep dive into that. I mean, if we get if there's somebody who's listening to this entire show and they are made it to this point and they want to hear about that, write us a letter and maybe we'll do a deep dive into it.
Yeah.
The
whole LVM, like the Daniel, Delaverne, Spencer Cook, John Grace, IR, Big Gun Show, Triple Crown, Vacation to Hell.
It was very much like that trip to the Colca for those guys.
Yeah, right. Exactly. There were some ups, there were some downs. We laughed, we cried.
And we all still hang out.
Yeah.
No, that would be a good one. That would be a good one. But that's a lot to unpack there. That's a whole show.
I mean, the Big Gun Show, he talked about the Big Gun Show, the Vacation to Hell. I think you and I both would like to discuss the Vacation to Hell, certainly parts of it. There's some stuff, some stories about that we could get into.
There's some good stories about that.
Oh, man.
I don't know if we can really bring some of that to light, though.
Should we just keep it buried?
I mean,
you think that's the best thing to do?
There's some things we can't talk about, but the real nitty gritty, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to come out in a good way.
Yeah. There's no upside to that. Maybe we'll just take that to our grave.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for listening to Hammer Factor episode 85, and we will see you on the river.